Mind Buzz, now partnered with Grito Industries.
This podcast episode of the Mind Buzz is brought to you by House of Chingazos. House of Chingazos is a Latino-owned online store that speaks to Latino culture and Latino experience. I love House of Chingazos because I like t-shirts that fit great and are comfortable to wear. I wear them on the podcast and to the carne asadas. Click the affiliate link in the show description and use promo code TheMindBuzz. That's TheMindBuzz to receive 10% off your entire purchase. The cash saved will go directly to the Mind Buzz podcast to help us do what we do best, and that's bringing you more Mind Buzz content. Click the link in the show description for more. The Mind Buzz is powered by Mind Buzz Media. Mind Buzz Media is an on-site video and audio podcast production company. Have you ever thought about starting your own video and audio podcast? Or do you have an existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Mind Buzz Media brings a professional podcast studio to you. Visit mindbuzz.org for more. February 23rd, Delic Comedy is a stand-up comedy open mic comedy showcase and live podcast recorded in front of a live studio audience. Oh yeah, each open mic and featured stand-up comedian will receive 3 minutes of stage time followed by an interview with your host. That's me. Eat, drink, and laugh at Delic Comedy. Door 7:30, show 8 p.m. No cover, 2 drink minimum. The Mind Buzz. And away we go. Boom! Welcome back to another podcast episode. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gil, and working the 3s and 2s is always the lovely Amber.
Hey!
Much better.
Oh my God. I love it. Thank you for coming out and doing this with us. I really appreciate it. I love the energy. I feel like we haven't done any of these in the past. It's been a while. So I'm just happy that we're all back in the groove of things.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because we can not do an episode or two, and then I freaking forget everything all over again. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's totally weird. So how are you? How you been?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Yeah.
Note to self: don't eat pasta before a show.
Okay. All right.
Hanging on for dear life.
I'll remind you on that one.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Besides your candle giving me, I don't know, something. I think I'm having a allergic reaction to one of your candles.
Well, I don't know, but that sucks. 'Cause it smells good.
It smells really good. And what is it, by the way?
Pineapple.
And I love pineapples too. Oh my God. I love eating pineapples, skinning them. They're really good.
Skinning them?
Yeah. Skinning them? No, that's not what you call it.
I don't think you call it that.
You core them?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Peel? Do you peel them?
No.
Pineapple's also code word for penis.
Who's
Oh
that?
God. That's a soundboard. That's a sound. That's a new sound effects we got.
Got it.
That's a new sound effect we have, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you peel it?
Where there's an awkward Mexican just say nonchalant things. But before we get into that guest, I believe we have a My Grito Weekly. Amber, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Whoa. Going into space.
Give me some volume on that. Give me some volume on that.
I'm on it.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
Bad Hombres will be at La Cita in LA on February 23rd. You may remember us interviewing their drummer, Sebastian, on episode 170.
Sebastian.
Yeah, he's a jiu-jitsu personal trainer, so go check their show or he'll kick your ass. Harley Sweetwater will be in Arizona at the Rhythm Room on February 29th. Maria Sanchez will be performing at Alex's Bar in Long Beach on March 2nd for Ladies Soul Night. Oh, I want to go.
Ooh.
Rundown Creeps released their new music video, which can be found on YouTube or the link on their Instagram bio. 3LH also released their latest single and music video, Darling, which can be found on YouTube. The Paranoias will someday release their new music video.
They're working on it, okay? You can't rush art, bro.
Every time I read it and it said it's coming, and in my head I was like, when?
You can't rush art.
Stay tuned. Make sure you hit them up on their Instagram and ask them where it's at. Go ask them. Paranoias, where is that? Lastly, but just as important, make sure you go check out the new single and music video from Bad Hombres, Sueños, out today. Go check that out. For more details on these shows, go to the artist's Instagram page and don't forget to visit mygrito.net to purchase. I don't know why I can never say purchase. To purchase your vinyl right meow. Meow.
You might want to check that because I think it was the 14th. It's out. Yeah? Yeah, it is? The 14th?
Coming out in 2 days.
All right, there we go. Cool. And without further ado, let's get into my Delic comedy on February 23rd, Friday. Tickets are absolutely free. It's a 2-drink minimum. You heard it on the intro. 3 minutes. We got about a dozen comics. We have our guest hosts, Johnny Gold. We also have our other guest co-host, Johnny C. from the West Coast Pop Lock Podcast, featuring Wildcat Jackson and featuring Ricky Novea. You've heard him on the podcast before. Super 2 funny, great individuals featuring, and then we have at least dozen open comics. Come out, have some fun, eat, drink, and laugh at Delic Comedy, hosted in the city of Paramount. It's going to be awesome. And without further ado, go down to the links on the show description, mindbuzz.org, for your free tickets. All you have to do is just reserve your spot, reserve your seat before we sell out, because tickets are going quick. Anything else, Amber?
No, that's it.
All right. Without further ado, let's get into today's guest. He is a record label. He runs he is a record label.
He is a record.
He runs the My Grito Industries record label, Chicano Run record label, podcast network, events, y más. And now we can say he's a podcast host. Can we say that?
I think we can. We're actually going to announce it here on your show.
Awesome.
Hey.
Give it up for Oscar from My Grito.
Gracias. Thank you, Gil. Thank you, Amber, for having me on the show.
Of course,
again,
man.
I appreciate it.
Of course, man. We missed you.
Lies. All these lies.
Well, we got to tell you. We got to let people know that I miss you. So it's fine.
You're contract obligated to tell me those kind of things from time
There's
to time.
obligations that I don't necessarily 100% agree with, but yeah.
We have a lot of similarities because I have to tell you from time to time that you're doing a good job, but it's what the contract requires.
Mm-hmm.
So ahí estamos.
Yeah. There's.
That's what we put in the fine print in order to sign with you guys.
You must grease me a little bit so I can get through my day. We need it. We need that positive reinforcement sometimes, even if we're doing bad.
We do need it from time to time. I also personally believe that we also need constructive criticism from time to time. I think it only helps out in making the individual feel or be able to advance further in whatever they're doing by getting good, honest feedback from good, honest people. So, yes, we do need the reassurance. Absolutely. but we also need honesty. Wouldn't you agree?
100%.
I agree.
So what's up, man? What's going on? How you been? What's the jazz? Give me up to speed on all your projects.
Absolutely.
So what's going on?
Well, as you mentioned very eloquently on my intro, I do co-run My Grito Industries, and it's being co-run by myself and my good friend Rob Castellon. Rob also runs Wiretap Records. The label's doing well. We celebrated 3 years last year. We do have several bands that are currently on the label. You can easily just go to our Instagram account as an example. Check out all the bands that we have on the label there. Not only that, but we also have several podcast shows, obviously, like the Mind Buzz. We also have West Coast Pop Lock Podcast. We have Chicano Shuffle. We have Emo Brown. And lastly, we also have Tragos Amargos.
Well, I gotta fix this for you. Go see your face.
Oh.
There we go.
And there we go.
Cool.
We also have Tragos Amargos, a podcast that's going to be announced here in March. So that's coming out pretty soon. A lot of good things there. We're hoping to be announcing our next concert here within the next couple weeks. We are leaning more towards ska on the next go around. That's something that both Rob and I have a lot of fun. We have a lot of great relationships with the scene, with bands that are in the scene. So hopefully we'll be announcing that soon. And my insurance business, last time that I was on your show, I talked a little bit about my insurance practice, what I do, how I help out individuals with retirement planning, building a financial legacy, life insurance. We finishing up 2023 was probably one of our best year. So gracias a Dios, things went very well, not only for us, but for a lot of our clients. And this year, we're off to a good start. Aside from that, you and I are working on a new project.
We are.
We're very excited because I'm announcing it here on the Mind Buzz that we have partnered up, not necessarily with Mind Buzz, but Mind Buzz Media, which
It's affiliate.
It's an affiliate. But we do have Mind Buzz Media that's going to be co-producing what My Grito's coming out with next, which is our very own podcast show. So
I'm super excited, dude.
Thank you very much. We're excited about it because we felt that it was something that would be appropriate based on where we're at currently with the label.
How do you have a podcast network but not a podcast? I think that's where my thinking was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've been asked occasionally by one or two people, when are we going to come up with our own show? It's something that we put a lot of thought into it because the one thing that we didn't want to do is we didn't want to make it seem like we're competing against the other podcasts that are part of the My Grito podcast network. We're absolutely not competing because I'll tell you here in a few minutes on what's the purpose of the podcast, what our intentions are. But also we needed to take a look at our time. We needed to take a look at, is it something that we can commit to? Is it something that we think we have something to say? Are we able to get the type of guest that we want to interview on this show? Can we help out listeners with the type of information that we're going to be sharing on the podcast? We've already had the opportunity with your help, Gil, in recording 3 episodes. The very first episode that's going to be released this Friday, February the 16th. We recorded several of them on one day because, again, I was just talking about time, having time to be able to commit to it, yet again, another project. With your help and Mind Buzz Media being a travel service that can go to any individual that's looking to do their own podcast, and you want somebody to come in and pretty much produce the whole thing from nuts to bolts, the headphones, speakers, the
front to
back, everything.
Every little piece of everything.
You've been able to do that for me, and to really protect both of our times. My thought process was to see if we can record multiple interviews in one day. That way we could be very protective of our times and just scatter them out over the next several weeks. So we're very pumped. The first interview that we're releasing this Friday is with our good friend, Super Steve Flores, who is one of the hosts of the West Coast Pop Lock podcast, which of course is under My Grito. But also this individual has an incredible background, a fantastic bio. If you take a look at him him working for the world famous K-Rock for over 18 years, one of the first Latino radio personalities nationwide by being on that show. So he was a big part of the morning show. He's done a lot for that radio station. The radio station has done a lot for him. And with those opportunities came up projects such as the largest michelada festival in the U.S., and it's been around now for several years, the Michelada Rumble. So this is one of his babies. That's one of his shows. So we figured that this is an individual, not only has he accomplished a lot, but he's real good friends. He's family of ours. So I thought it would be appropriate to have him as being our first guest for the officially called the My Grito podcast show. So he's going to be our very first guest. Again, it's going to come out this Friday. We also interviewed Mr. Arturo Meza II, who is the owner of Chicano Soul, who also was a guest here at your show, here at the Mind Buzz. But he's also a very incredible individual, very talented photographer, but he's also a big influencer in the soul scene. And he's only continuing to grow and make quite a statement in that scene by helping other people. And I think that's something that we could definitely use more talented individuals that are out there willing to lend a hand and help out. So if you want to hear more about what exactly Art is doing with Chicano Soul and other projects that he's working on, you're going to want to listen into that episode. The third episode that we have that's going to come out in mid-March is with the very talented Angie Munroy, who is the lead singer of the McCharmleys. She came on the episode, was able to share a lot with us about not only the beginning of the McCharmleys, how they came to be, their success, because they have been a band that's been rapidly growing, not only with Spotify, also on social media, also on TikTok, on Instagram, but also if you go to any of their shows, they're selling out shows left and right. So I felt that would be an individual that I would also like to interview, especially because they're going to be announcing their tour here. It's already been out there. They're going to go to a lot of different states, a lot of fantastic cities.
Texas, Arizona, Chicago. They're doing a whole tour within like 2 months, right? With the Surfer Jets, and then they have these big rockabilly and same music style as they do, surfer music, the new soldies type of music that's coming around, but they are freaking blowing up, dude.
Yeah, absolutely are.
And like I told Angie when she was there, I'm just like super proud of just to know them. And then also what we talked about was, it's at least for me, and maybe Amber, you can not disagree, but maybe you have a band that you really liked, right? And then just to see them progress and thrive and blow up just the way the McCharmleys have in the past. Well, we've known them for about a year and a half, and it's crazy. Like when they announced their tour with the Surfer Jets, I was so excited for them. Like I was just a fan, right? Like I'm just super proud of them, and to go on a tour like that for months and doing the tour that they're going to be doing over the next couple of months, it's fucking awesome. It was a awesome moment, definitely, when I heard about that.
Absolutely, they've came a long way. Not only did they have the opportunity to open up to some great bands, Delta Bombers, Trish Toledo, amongst several more, but they're also headlining their own shows. And like I mentioned earlier, they're selling out these venues. So they're doing some real cool things. I'm very fortunate to have those three individuals, Super Steve Flores, Art Meza, and Angie Munroy from the McCharmleys, be the very first three guests of the My Grito podcast show. And during the conversation that we had with them, I hope what the listeners are going to take away from the interview style that we're trying to create on this show is to try and get a little bit more deep into their background and some of the things that they've gone through that many of us are going through or have gone through that sometimes people don't feel very comfortable talking about. On the last episode or the last time that I was here on the Mind Buzz, Gil, I shared with you my struggles with, I don't want to say depression because I know it wasn't depression. After talking more with, I did open up that I was going to therapy because it was a big help to me. But I realized that it wasn't necessarily that I was depressed. And this might be a misconception for a lot of people out there that feel like they might be going through some form of depression. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But the reality is I was just going through some very sad shit. I was very sad during that moment. And I needed to figure out a way on how to rebalance my life a little bit better so I can be in a much better headspace. And when I shared that on your show, I did have several people that reached out to me and asked for advice on what resources are out there for them in order for them to also try and take advantage of some help themselves. Because not all resources cost money. There are some free resources that are out there available for us to help us out if we are going through some dark moments. There's no reason that we should be going through these moments alone. So because of that experience that I've had on this show, I would say, Gil, it's probably one of the reasons that really motivated me a little bit more when I was talking it over with Rob, the co-owner of My Grito, that I think we should do a podcast because I would like to have more of those type of conversations with the guests if they're open to it. As an example, for those that do listen to Super Steve, we talk about the passing of his parents, and we go in pretty deep in regards to what experiences not only did he go through, but also that I went through when I lost my sister. So we talk about that, and we went pretty heavy on it. With Art, we talk also about some of the things that he's dealing with his family and what he's done in order to put him in a good head spot. With Angie, she talked about the relationship with her parents. She opened up quite a bit. I really didn't know her family dynamics, but she talked about how for the longest time, she was raised by her mother and her stepfather, and she didn't really connect with her actual biological father till her late teens, and how much that made an impact in her life. Not only an impact, but she also was like, wow, she sees the connection between her biological father because her personalities are exactly the same. So she sees where she gets it from. So we had an opportunity to have those conversations, Gil, and you were a part of it as well. And I'm hoping that dialogue for certain people could be something that could be beneficial for them. If they're not getting therapy themselves, maybe listening to podcasts like this or like the Mind Buzz, because you guys also are a big help to me when I listen to your interviews, your comedy style. It helps me get away. But this is it's going to be yet again another fucking podcast that's going to be addressing those situations.
I love that. I think your show and what your mission behind it is, after the man coughing, is to really show these people, because they can go on other podcasts and say what they're doing as a profession or, their passion and everything. But we all know that they're a whole other human behind being a musician or being a comedian or being, they're not necessarily what their profession is 100% of the time. And with you digging deep into these conversations, it just kind of like really, I don't know, like you make them more humanly, right? Like you personify them more as like, hey, they're just average people like you and I. So I like that.
No, I agree, Amber. I feel like it does humanize us a lot more for those individuals that only hear, as an example, with a musical artist. You only hear their music or you see them at their shows or you see them performing, having a great time on stage. But the truth is they're dealing with issues just like everybody else. And the thing is with social media, many times we think social media, the internet in general, it's a great outlet, but it also has its trade-offs. And specifically with social media, what it does, it puts together this facade that people are only putting their best moments, right? Mm-hmm. They're not always putting their when things are going difficult. And why would you, right? I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. Most of the time, I'm putting pictures of my family and I, or me going to shows, moments that have me in a very good headspace, and I do want to share it with people, right? But I'm not always openly talking about the shit that I'm going through.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's more personal to me, and sometimes I feel comfortable enough where I want to talk about it openly, either with my friends or when opportunity presents itself on a podcast. And now I'm going to have an opportunity to do it on my own podcast with some fantastic guests and Gil.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I can't wait to see it because I wasn't there.
We'll have the link down in the show description if you want to take a look at it, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming out Friday, right?
Yeah,
This Friday? I'm excited, dude. I'm excited to get the feedback to see what it's one thing doing your own podcast like this, but to be on to produce a podcast on the other side, you know what I mean? Like the hosting is one thing, but to be on Amber's on the Amber chair, right? It's completely different. 100% completely different. It was fun.
Good.
Yeah. Had lots of fun.
I did too. And to share a little bit more about kind of the platform of the show, the reason that we also wanted to come out with the Grito podcast show is because during the opening comments, what I really wanted to focus on is things that the label is working on. And when I say the label, it's not just what Rob and I are doing or other people that have stepped up to help us out in growing this brand, because we do have people out there that did step up to the plate, which I appreciate, people like yourself, because you're doing that for us. But also talk about the artists. What is it that they're working on? What new music do they have out? What music videos are out? So very similar to what you guys are doing here with the My Grito Weekly. But I also want to focus on the podcast network. So if I have the opportunity while I'm doing my opening comments throughout my show and say, oh, by the way, make sure that you check out the last episode from Chicano Shuffle where they talk about this certain topic, I'm promoting, I'm helping to get the word out on something that Rob and I committed to, which was the talent, the podcast. And this is one way for us to continue to do that by sharing it on our podcast, on what things we're working on. So I'm hoping that people do get a kick out of that. Like I said, also interviewing the guests and trying to find some interesting people that we can interview that are willing to be interviewed by us. And lastly, because I am in the financial industry, the very last thing that I wanted to close out every episode with is giving some type of financial advice. I can't tell you, Gil and Amber, how many times I'm talking to an artist that's part of the label or just somebody that I know from the industry, and we're having a conversation, and they're aware of my background, and they start asking me for, so I just changed jobs, and what do you think I should do with my 401k? Do you think I should cash it out? Stuff like that. And at that point, I'm giving them very important information to help them avoid some pretty extreme penalties if they do cash out a 401k, especially if they're under the age of 59 and a half. Where I talk to them about different things that they should be doing with investments, different things that they should be suggesting to their parents to better protect their parents and better protect themselves. These are things that I've learned in my career in the insurance industry, and I've been in that industry since 1997. So I've learned a lot of things, and I feel that this platform could be yet again another place where at the very end of each episode, share some type of financial advice. And most of the time, Gil, that financial advice, as you know, it's based off the conversation, the interview that we had with our guests. So if they said something that kind of stood out, then I would give some type of advice as if I'm giving it to that guest. But in reality, it's also to everybody else that's listening to that episode.
It's kind of like Jerry's final thoughts on the Jerry Springer show.
There you go. Except there's not a lot of putazos during the actual interview. Jerry.
Dude, well, that's pull up. Can we watch one of Jerry's last final thoughts? Okay, see if you can find that. I had that there was that vibe there, but it was on financial assistance, if you will.
I would be lying if that didn't also come to mind for myself, because I did watch a lot of Jerry Springer.
Did you really?
And I do, and Jose Sin Censura as well on Channel 22. But I do remember like all the chaos that goes throughout the episode. And then at the very end, he's saying, I in my opinion, I don't say it as elegantly as he did, but again, he's doing all these babosadas throughout the whole episode, which really his guest star, but
yeah, it wasn't him.
He understands. Yeah. This is what's bringing in viewers.
Right.
But then at the very end, he gives out some fucking fantastic gold advice. I don't know if mine's... I see the similarities, but on the financial side, that's what I'm trying to accomplish here.
It's there, dude.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks. It's it's really there, dude. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
No, I appreciate it.
You're my Jerry Springer,
and you're my Steve, except not as big, or as muscular, or as good looking,
or bald. Not anymore. I'm
not
letting
anymore,
my hair grow.
letting it grow.
Too much for our ego, and we lash out at who we lost and the person who took him or her. Now, I'm not suggesting it's easy to refrain from such feelings, but we have to know, as bad as those feelings are, it's in our own control.
Just imagine
how
Oscar.
long we harbor them.
No, I just thought of
truth
like
is,
Jerry
we don't
Springer,
want that
someone getting their
person back.
freaking shirt
who
ripped
wants to be in a
off, and
relationship with
my
someone
baby
who doesn't love
daddy is a
Why are
homeless,
we
toothless
fighting
man,
to
and
get
then
this
he's
person
all
back? It may
at the
have
end.
once been good, but it isn't anymore. No, don't let this person continue to hurt you. Let it go. Find someone who will love you back. Then you can have the happiness you want and deserve. As for the lover you lost, you don't love him. You only loved who you thought he was. You're better off moving on. Till next time, take care of yourself.
Damn.
Jerry.
That was the final?
That was the
that
final thoughts, words of wisdom that nobody took him up on it.
Wow.
And they will be doing the same thing with my show and not take my advice, my financial advice either. But hopefully they do. If I can help out a few people, I would love that.
Do you know what the percentage is of people taking out their 401k early in life? Is it low or high?
So it depends. It really depends on the financial education that the individual has, wherever their financial IQ is.
Gotcha.
And the reality,
financial IQ?
yes, it's
Whoa.
out there. Oh shit, you got the big words.
Oh my God.
So it really depends, because we have to understand that in our school system, there's very little that we learn from money. You know, some of the things that a lot of us should really be getting more education on, not just the basic how to write a check. And that's kind of dating myself back in high school. That's when checks were being written.
Well, absolutely no, because we have an age gap. Like we have a huge age gap between probably one of the biggest age gaps that I have with a friend. Super big. The age
you're
gap
saying
is
that I'm
tremendous. The age gap is tremendous.
Respect your elders.
However, stay off my lawn. However, I took a class in high school. They called it the senior math class because it was really a PE teacher showing us how to fill out a W-2, how to do discounts on certain percentages, how to work percentages. Hey, if your T-shirt is $27 and it's a 15% discount if you're a member, those type of math problems. But one of the classes was how to write and balance a checkbook. And I want to say when I was about 8-9 years old, I used to balance my mom's checkbook for her at the closing of the week and at the end of the month. I'm super familiar of writing checks. That was something that I learned super early in life. And when I took the math class, it was kind of cool, you know. And even me telling Amber about that specific class, like she didn't. Did you have a class like that?
I
no,
didn't.
right?
No.
No, you
I
took
didn't.
geometry. Like, when are you ever going to use geometry?
Yeah, I don't.
Right.
See,
But
and
but
I
you're
didn't
right.
know. I didn't know the basics of like writing a check and things like that. I mean, my mom always showed me. Well, what my parents showed me was like credit cards. Credit cards are bad. You know, don't over your limit. So I was always scared of finances. I was scared of money because what was instilled in me, and I understand why it was showed to me in that way, because my mom didn't want me to be irresponsible with money and my finances and things like that. But in actuality, I never really learned how to balance anything or really what to do with my finances. I don't know how to invest. I don't know, like I didn't know any of that. And I don't think we're being taught any of that anywhere until you hit maybe, you meet someone or whatever the thing is. But yeah, that's crazy to me.
You meet somebody like this gentleman across from me, right? Or even, and I'm going to take it a step further too, you don't learn about it until you get in a messy situation, right? Like financially. And to take it again a step further, no, we won't go there. I was going to talk about DUIs, but we won't go there right now. But I'm just saying there's some things that you learn and there's all this education for, but you don't get taught it until it happens. And the DUI thing, you don't learn really what alcohol does to you until you have to take a DUI class, or you have to take you go to an AA meeting and they teach you this is what alcohol does to your brain, or this is what happens to you. This is what is considered a binge drinker. This is what's considered an alcoholic. This is what's considered a social drinker. You don't learn all that stuff. And I say this because I just recently renewed my bartending license, and it teaches you all that stuff on how to serve, but not as a consumer. So you think twice now. Like when you're serving somebody alcohol, you think a little bit different because of the education that you get. And even before driving a car, you don't really get all this information unless you are court ordered by the state of California to learn this information. And I think that sucks. I think that it blows. And that's the one thing that I told one of the alcohol educators about alcohol was, why aren't we learning this at a different level and at a younger age? What does the DARE program do for you? Like what like in high school you get one day and they bring in a busted ass car and they say don't drink and drive or this will happen, and that's it. And you don't hear anything else from that. That's it. That's messed up.
That
Excuse me.
That was me. I definitely understand what you're saying, Gil. And I believe a lot of the resources that are out there may not be directed towards a certain population.
Right.
Certain courses are not made available just because of maybe the political reason behind it or the availability to have somebody there to educate. We also need to understand that sometimes we're not being taught that because in the perfect world, which we don't live in, we would be getting this education from our parents, and the good and the bad from our parents. And it depends for myself, who I'm first generation here. Both my parents are immigrants. When it comes to me getting education from them, it's completely different than what I teach my clients. It's completely different than what I teach my kids. Not because my parents were wrong, but their focus when it came to finance was very straightforward. You come here, you work multiple jobs, you save your money, and then you buy a house, and you keep saving money, you keep saving money, you keep saving money. That's their vision of what success is. What I try and teach my clients, that first of all, owning a home is not being rich. A lot of people think that having a home, especially how difficult it is right now to buy a property, it's very difficult for any it's not just about the younger generations, how hard they have it to buy a home. It's about any generation that's trying to buy a home right now. It is very difficult, right? But also understand that the real estate market it does fluctuate. And at some point, you're thinking that it's your greatest asset. And before you know it, if the real estate bubble crashes like it did before, 2008 was a big example of it. Your equity's down, and you were relying on the equity in your home to leverage loans off of it, to help fund your retirement, to do a reverse mortgage. Not everybody's going to have that advantage. My parents were teaching me to save your money. That's not always a smart thing. Yeah. Yes, you should have money put away in case of an emergency, and know where that money should be placed in order for you to get a pretty decent rate of return while still having some form of liquidity in case you do need it. What other investments are out there where can get you much better returns? Where can you invest your money where your money can work harder for you? So there's a difference in understanding financial literacy. Your financial IQ needs to improve. And I've had too many conversations with individuals that have not had that type of conversation with somebody, to your point, until it's too late. And before you know it, they're in a very bad financial situation. They lose their jobs and they have no money in their savings account. They get a DUI and they don't understand to talk to an attorney. Not that I know from experience, but from what I understand, from what I read, $1,500 is to talk to an attorney. For bail, you're on minimum, you're looking at $6,000. And then you're looking at all these additional court fees and all these different things that's going to change your life just because of a fucking DUI. That was completely your fault because you didn't think ahead. And with Uber, Lyft, there's no fucking excuse on why you should be driving, right? But all these things could financially ruin somebody. And also they can lose friendships. They can lose family because of it. They can kill somebody because of it or themselves. So what I wanted to do, because I was having this conversation with too many people in the music industry since getting heavily involved with my Grito, I was giving that type of advice, and I thought to myself, you know what, Gil, I would love to be able to share that, some type of financial advice at the very end of the podcast episode, if it makes sense. So far, again, we're 3 down. It sounds good so far, in my opinion, and your listeners were going to have the chance to check out the first one this Friday on February the 16th. But yeah, I'm hoping that will bring some value. So, vamos a ver.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Where do you, sorry, I have a question. Where do you think that, okay, I guess my question's for you. When did you get into actually this whole finance thing, right? And learning how to move your money and how to invest your money and things like that. Was it later on in life or was it early on?
Who's that? Was that for me or for I'm just joking.
Not you. You still gotta learn.
My IQ is a point something. Let's just throw that out there.
To answer your question, Amber, I think it was a lot of trial and error and just going through life. And I think, I hope what listeners are picking up here, you don't necessarily have to experience all the things the hard way before you take the time to educate yourself in it. Doesn't mean that you're not going to fuck up. We all make mistakes. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. What you need to do is limit those mistakes, find out how much of a risk tolerance you have for investing, and making sure that you're putting yourself in a good position by creating a nice, solid portfolio that's going to provide for you and your family. That's going to provide for you when you do retire someday, if that's your goal. So Amber, more specifically, I really started getting more into it because as a young kid, I was fucking up left and right. I had my full-time job while I was going to school, and every paycheck went to partying, drinking, buying clothes. Back then, we were into fixing up our cars. So any paycheck that I got, wheels, intake, K&L filters, new headers. We were in that scene back then. This was in the 90s, talking Fast and the Furious here. But that was a scene that I was involved in because before souping up these cars.
Hold on. What did you have driving? What did you drive back then?
I went through a couple, but the one that I invested the most money on was a 2000 Civic SI. 2000. So the SI, nice little kick. But before that was a 65 Mustang.
Was it a coupe?
Yeah, it was a coupe.
Ooh.
It was a nice little sports car.
Okay.
And before that was a Toyota MR2 Spider. So it was that little roadster.
Pull up a 2000 Honda Civic Si.
It's not. It's a Civic. I was happy about it. I was fucking proud about
dude.
But I'm
hold
saying
on.
it's a Civic.
I like Civics. Hondas were back in those days. Were fucking.
To have a Civic, to have a Honda, an Accord.
But wasn't it that car that was on the original Fast and the Furious?
I mean, that was one of the cars. The main highlighted one was like the Supra or the Honda S2000.
Oh, come on, bro. Of course. Did you have a spoiler too?
No spoiler. But I did invest a lot of money in it. And at that point, Amber, I wasn't learning shit about money because every paycheck, a small portion went to my parents because I was living at home. A small portion of it went to pay for rent, utilities, things like that. And the rest of the money, they said, do whatever you want with the money. Just get a job and stay in school. And when they tell me, do whatever you want with the money, I'm thinking at that point, okay, I covered my minimum expenses and they were very minimal. My parents were very good to me. And I'm not saying that we lived an extravagant life. We didn't. But they were taking care of the bills. And I worked for them for many, many years. All the way until I was 18, I was working in the swap meet with them. And I rarely, if ever, got a paycheck from them because all my work went towards the family. But then I started having these 9-to-5 jobs, working at the mall and bullshit like that. And I was just burning paycheck after paycheck on bullshit.
Please tell me you worked at Hot Dog on a Stick.
I did not. No.
I'm trying to just picture you in a hot dog on a stick outfit and...
I'll send you a picture.
Okay.
I know those costumes are out there for Halloween. I know that's what you want.
I know, please.
No, but I had all types of odd jobs, but I wasn't learning anything about money. I was working a lot at the mall, working at different like fashion stores because I was really into fashion. I still am. And eventually I started working because one of my good friends was working at a tuxedo rental place called Gary's Tuxedo, and he was telling me how much commission he was earning. So that grabbed my attention, and I started to work at that. And then one of my other friends told me that she was working at an auto insurance company, customer service, earning $11 an hour. And I was thinking, fuck yeah. Because back then the minimum wage
What year was this?
This was probably in 1998.
$11 in 1998 was money, dude.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
The minimum the minimum wage was like $4.50.
Yeah, $4 or $5.
Making what, like $25 an hour right now? $30 an hour?
Are you kidding me? And I was making that. So I was customer service at an auto insurance company. Oh. Shout out to my friend Fern, who's probably going to be listening to this episode. That's where I met him. But I was making $11. Slowly the amounts was going up every year because of just I knew what I had. I had a good paying job and I was learning how to do that job effectively, and I was very good at it. But still I didn't learn about money because all those paychecks, all it meant is I had more money to go out there and buy alcohol, to go out there and do bullshit, to go out there and watch a lot of concerts. My friends and I watched a lot of concerts, and the money was not an issue because, again, at that point when I'm still living with my parents and I had very little financial responsibility to them back then, I wish I would have done more. But that was an agreement that I had with my parents. The rest of the money, especially at $11 an hour, I was learning more. I invested in a 401k at that job, and I didn't know shit about the 401k. Just my buddy Tony at the time told me, just do it, dude. It's a 4% match. I would just do it. I'm like, all right, I guess. My paycheck got a little bit less. I didn't think anything of it. I was then told about another job working in the type of business that I do now with retirement planning and life insurance. And that was in 2002. And I was being offered a lot more per year, a salary job. And when I heard how much that was paying, I was like, absolutely. I applied for the job. I went to the interview. I thought I did such a great job, and I was told no. I didn't get it.
Oh, man.
But I sent a nice thank you email to the owner of the company. And shortly after, I got the second call, and I was told to come back, and I was hired. I was making a lot more money at that time. When I say a lot more money, and please understand, this is not to be braggadocious. This is just to tell you what kind of my journey. Back then, 2002, the job was paying about $24,000 a year. Again, back then, that was a lot of money. And my overhead was very minimal. That money was going, again, partying, drinking, my car, going out on dates, doing just stupid shows, doing stupid shit. I started really understanding a little bit more about finance, not because I was working at this job, but when I left working at an auto insurance agency, and I was told when I was doing my exit interview, don't forget about your 401k. How much do I have in it? You have about $1,200 in it. Cash that bitch out. And they gave me the instructions on how to do it. Little did I find out that $1,200, once it hit me net,
It was like 500.
it was about $500.
Yeah.
But I didn't think anything of it. But the reality is that there's people out there that hopefully they're making the decision to invest in a 401k. And if they are, and let's say your employer is offering you a plan where they do a match. So let me give you an example. If they do a 4 or 6% match, and let's just say, to keep the numbers very simple, the match is $100. It's 6% of your paycheck. Again, that's very minimal. It's exaggerated, but just for simplicity, $100. And that's 6% of your paycheck. That means your employer is going to put in another $100. So for that pay period, you got $200 invested into this 401k that is specifically set up for your retirement to benefit you. If you cash that out before age 59 and a half, you're going to get a huge penalty. So you don't want to do that. This is all money that's been earmarked that has not been taxed yet. Now, if you want to go a little bit further, when I learned more about money, Amber, I did a Roth 401k. Much, much better for myself, for my family down the line, where I don't get any tax benefit right now for putting money into this 401k. I still do the match. My employer still matches my deposits. But once I start withdrawing the money, it's coming out income tax free because it's a Roth 401k. Huge, huge advantage in knowing about the two, a qualified 401k and a Roth 401k, understanding how those work and what would be best in your situation. Just because a Roth 401k may sound very attractive doesn't mean that it's the right thing for you. It's about talking to somebody in the industry that you trust, or doing your own due diligence, doing your own research to find out what would be the best option for you. But when I found out that $1,200 went down to $500, I was thinking, well, why? And I went ahead and asked my new boss at the time, and boy, did he school me. Also helping me understand that this is what I do now at this new place and what I need to understand in finance. And my responsibility is to help train and educate other insurance agents and advisors out there in the industry about these things. Many of them already know these concepts. Some of them don't, because there's insurance agents and advisors out there that have licenses for multiple industries. You have somebody that could be a broker, a real estate agent, somebody doing car insurance, somebody working at a completely different job, but they got their life license, which is all you need to do some of the things that I do on the side to go in and try and get some money. My job is to help them understand how the ins and outs of the different types of life insurance plans that are out there and how they work and what it would mean to somebody to own one, because life insurance is not just death insurance. It does a lot more than that. And also for people to understand the retirement plans that are out there that can give you a paycheck that you can never outlive and how that works. So Amber, it was over time, me getting more educated in finance. And sometimes it was by me learning the hard way that, to your point, Gil, what you said earlier, by your mistakes, you then learn. What I'm trying to tell people is that you don't need to wait till those mistakes happen. Yeah. You have people here that can give you that type of financial advice to get one leg up for your own future. Not just talk about your family or your kids, which yes, you should be doing that for them as well. Right now, I'm talking about how to put your own financial future in a better position. I hope that's what people will get out of this. One of the things they'll get out of the podcast.
That's cool. I like that because I always think like we had some guests here a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about like them starting their own business, right? And they were saying that they had gone to the bank and that the bank was like, telling them this, and it was their first time opening a business and kind of dealing with that amount of money and having to take loans out and things like that. And he said that there was someone at the bank that was like Latino, and I think he was like a first generation too. And he was nice enough to kind of talk them through like the ins and outs and kind of the tips and tricks of like, like money with them. And he was explaining how he's like, people with money, people that have a lot of money, or, white people that have money, or just people in general that are already financially stable since, they were pretty much born. These are the things that they do, and these are the things that rich people do, or people with money do, and things like that. And I was saying, like, it's kind of sad that we're first generation, but also, just Latinos in general are minorities, and we're not taught these things. We're not told by anyone how to do this, how to do that, how to, potentially make extra wealth for ourselves, or even just, like you said, like the Roths or anything like that. Like, I didn't know that until probably like a year and a half ago, and I still don't understand it completely. But it's not something that we're brought up with, and it's sad because we want to create generational wealth, and it's kind of like those things like, where do we start, how do we start, who do we talk to, what do we do? And then if you go and you do talk to a bank or someone else, and then you feel intimidated, because I would feel intimidated if someone's telling me all this and I'm just like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. So it is kind of one of those things that's like, we have to start changing the narrative in our lives and within our culture and within generations of how we handle money and how we see money, because a lot of times we're scared of money, but money can be a good thing, or, being financially stable can be a great thing. We just need to get on track. And I like that. I like that you're doing that. It's cool.
No, thank you. I absolutely agree with you. It's really understanding how money can best work for you, which is the purpose of it. Now, one of the things also on the podcast that I want to do with every guest is ask them 3 questions. One of the questions is, tell me about a favorite book. One of my favorite books, it's been around for a long time, but I learned a lot from it. For those of you that want to read, you can easily get it on Amazon. For those that prefer an audio book, it's available free as an example, on Spotify. So it doesn't cost anything. Is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Top seller. And it has the way the book was written is able to give some examples of what rich people do to have money work for them, and what poor people do to put them in a bigger hole. And before you know it, they're reaching the end of the last stages of their life, and they're nearing retirement, and they're thinking they made some great decisions in life, but they realize they really didn't save enough to retire comfortably. They really don't have anything left to leave behind all the other generations. They thought they were doing the right thing, but they don't understand what's out there in order to really have money work for you. And that's what the book does a real good job in giving us some really good advice that is mentioned in layman's terms. So you don't have to have a very high financial IQ to follow along on this book. You just have to be open-minded to listen to it, understand that not all things may be applicable to you, but there's several things that most likely are. And it's one thing to hear the information. It's another thing to retain the information. And even more importantly, it's to act on that information.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that you can do by acting on that information, again, is to take a look at the resources that are out there where you can invest your money in, where you can invest your time in, or what resource or what individuals are out there that have a specialty in certain things, like myself, again, retirement planning, life insurance. I can help out with investments. I have a good friend that is securities licensed that can talk to you about all types of different things. I have friends in the real estate market space. I have friends that do health insurance. So it's just a matter of what type of position do you want to put yourself in order to be more educated on this topic, to move further along in life, to be able to provide more of a financial legacy, to live more comfortably, not to live paycheck to paycheck. This is a way on how to get yourself out of that pattern, to break that pattern.
Who's the author to this book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right?
Yeah. So Amber, if you want to pull it up, he was raised in Hawaii. I don't want to kill the last name, but if you pull it up, it's very, very popular book. There it is. That one right there.
And what was
Robert Kiyosaki?
So what was the basic concept for this book? I haven't read it personally, but he had like a stepdad too. He had So here's that was a different book.
Here's a trippy part about it. He talks about his dad, who was very highly educated.
Oh, and then it was
paycheck to
his
paycheck.
friend's dad, right?
His friend's dad, who was not big on education, but very smart.
Okay.
And he was the rich guy that had a lot to show for it based on the way he looked at money. Versus his dad, who lived very similar to my dad, hard worker, didn't ever ask anybody for money, put his family through school, provided, both my parents provided. But then you take a look at bank accounts and you're thinking, where did it all go?
Yeah.
Because he was not making those additional decisions to think about taking into consideration inflation, taking into consideration taxes, taking into consideration how to have money work for you, not you work for that money. Yeah. So that's the road that my dad went through. And in this book, he talks about, similar to his father, and the struggles that his father went through financially, but it was his friend's dad that actually taught him about money. And he taught him in a way where he could understand it. It wasn't just about, like, Gil, if you and I are having a conversation about it and I'm telling you, do this, do that, it doesn't mean you're going to fucking do it. I got to figure out a way to tell you something for it to really resonate with you. And sometimes it's by asking you to do certain things for you to realize it for yourself. Oh, shit, that's what he meant.
Come sit on my lap, Gil.
I'm not going to pay you for that.
Let me read you a book. I'm going to read you a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but you need to sit on my lap.
We know this man. He's in my sister's side of the family, or her husband's side of the family. And this man came to this country, was not from here. He worked like factory jobs, minimum wage. And he says, he's like, I've always worked a minimum wage and a factory job, like all the way up to his retirement. But this man owns like 6 properties now, like 6 properties, and they're all rental properties. So he makes money now off of all his rental properties. And I remember when he first told us, my dad was like, how, like, how did this man do it? Like, how does someone that was just making minimum wage, like supporting a family, and then you still buy, and the man was just saying, he's like, I just educated myself on how to administer my money. He's like, and, I didn't buy things that I didn't need. I bought things that I knew that in the long run were going to give me an investment later and things like that. And I was just thinking to myself, like, dang, like that's crazy. Because I feel like us as like Latino, well, I can only speak for us, but like Latinos, like we get money and we want to go out and spend it, right? Because
te pica.
Yeah, te pica, like te pica el dinero. Like I'll always remember, and there's no shade, no nothing in this and what I'm about to say, but I think it just stayed imprinted in my brain that I knew someone that lived in like a mobile home, right, area. But it was pretty like rundown, like it was like a small little mobile homes. Like they weren't like, like the big trailers, nice and everything. But their neighbor had like the most rundown mobile home in the entire like little, place, and like he hadn't painted in like 20 years, and his grass was always growing and everything. But he had a BMW, and his BMW had, you know, all leather seats, and he was always like taking care of it, and the best rims and everything. And in my head, I was like, that's your priority. Like, his car is his priority. And that's crazy to me, because you see him out in the street and you see him in a BMW and you're like, oh, this guy has money. This guy, you know, did it the right way. And then you go back to where he's at, and his priority was never his home. And to me, that always, like, it stuck out, right? And I was just thinking, like, sometimes our priorities with money are not where they should always be at. And this man, the man that I'm telling you, like he was like, he's an example of, he made his money his priority and knew where to put it and what to do. And he says, he's like, yeah, sometimes I wanted to take my kids out to eat, and I had to tell him, like, no, we're going to cook at home. He's like, but look, now I'm able to give each of my kid a property. Like, I'm able to set them up. And I'm like, dang, like, that's crazy. Like, that's cool. I don't know.
I like that a lot, Amber. It is the story of several people that quite honestly just took a risk. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They took a risk because buying multiple homes, buying one property, buying two properties, and I'm sure he probably bought them maybe in the 90s or the early 2000s when it was a lot easier, but he took the initiative to make that investment, and look at him now. And I'm sure those properties have either doubled or tripled in price. But he took the risk of, this is where I'm going to put my money at, and let me make some regular sacrifices, such as going out to eat, doing all these things, buying the fancy car. I don't need that. So, I mean, good for him. There's a ton of stories with people out there that took the initiative to say, I want to leave some type of financial legacy behind. And I understand that it's not going to be easy. Here are my resources. Here's the sources of income that I'm getting. With this amount of money, what can I do to maximize my position? Aside from taking care of my family and making sure that they have the bare minimum to get by, right? Yeah. There's people out there that are doing that. And that's, in essence, what the book talked about, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's what I try and talk to with a lot of my clients. And something that you might be aware of, you guys might be aware of, but some of the pretty well-off individuals are landscapers. Some of them, I have two clients that are landscapers. One of them is my actual landscaper, and he would come down with his beat up truck, and he would go in and give us the service. And I only hired him because for the longest time I used to mow my own lawn, because I'm cheap as fuck sometimes. Again, I'm cheap because I'm reinvesting my money. So there's things that I know that I can do in order to stretch out my dollar as much as possible. Plus, it was a way for me to exercise, right? So I would do it, but then because of my traveling schedule with work, it was the yard was getting out of control. So my wife asked me to go ahead and get a landscaper, which I did. And it didn't take long before me and this guy really connected. And it didn't take long where he said, hey, instead of me coming down on Wednesday, do you mind if I come down on Friday? I'm like, sure, why is that? No, pues Oscar, todo el tiempo me ofreces una cerveza and I'd rather drink with you and I want your house to be the last one so we can kick it. I'm like, hey, if I'm not going out anywhere, I'm perfectly fine. We'll have a drink, we'll talk, we'll chop it up. And I started to find out more about his business. And I asked him, how many employees does he have? He's telling me how well he's doing, but his money is just sitting practically at home. And I asked him, what can we do in order to multiply your business as safely as we can? And before you know it, I'm opening up a Yelp account for him. We're doing advertisement for him.
Nice.
And even before we started that, I guess the conversation really happened. It came up because I asked him to do some extra work on my yard, and he came during the week in his nice Chevy pickup truck. And I'm like, fuck, that's a brand new truck. Me va bien. But I'm like, how can we make sure that it goes even better for you? And now he has multiple crews that are working with him. And his son, he's helping his son also build his own company in this field because there is money out there for it, right? But what it came down to is just having somebody that is willing to take the time to give you some honest opinion or advice on how we can put ourselves in a better position. And that's what I try to do for people, because people have done it for me. And again, it wasn't my dad, as I love him to death. It wasn't my mom, because they know what they know and they showed me hard work. But I needed to have mentorship from somebody else that understood money and took the time to tell me how money works and how to reinvest in myself. And because of that, again, I started that job in 2002. My family and I, gracias a Dios, were in a very good financial position. And we have saved quite a bit of money. And we do still yet have an opportunity to go out on our vacations. I'm not trying to say that to be braggadocious, but we're able to do that because we put enough away to put us in a safe spot if something bad was to happen to us. Mm-hmm. Financially, we have money reserved. If something happens to me, if I drive home tonight and I happen to pass away, I have enough life insurance to take care of my wife and my daughters, because I took that initiative to protect myself. My wife has life insurance. My daughters have life insurance. It's just what we do to understand, instead of spending all this money going out to eat and doing all these different things, what we needed to do first is pay ourselves first and protect ourselves. And once we do that and we continue to understand how to best leverage money, then at that point, we have excess money to go out there and do the fun things.
I think, did I tell you this story last time about life insurance? That I told you that I was kind of scared of.
Yeah, you did.
Talking about it, right? Because of my uncle.
Yeah.
So I think last time I said it the wrong way. So my parents were just talking about it recently. So what my mom was saying was that they called my aunt over the phone to offer her life insurance. And they were young. My uncle passed at 25. So they were like 25 years old, and the person calls and they're like, "Yeah, we're selling life insurance." Blah, blah, blah. And they put her on a 30-day trial. So she didn't even go through the whole thing. It was like a trial, which right now we were talking about it and we're like, how do you do a trial for life insurance? Like for 30 days, like how does that make sense? So between those 30 days is when he had his accident and he passed away. Mm-hmm. So for me, like I think about it, like for my parents and stuff like that. And I think it's one of those things where we don't like to bring up life insurance because we feel like we have that juju, right? Like that bad juju of like what happened. Like I don't know. I know it's dumb, but it's just a trauma that happened. And it's one of those things that was just like a freak accident, and then it happened to play out that way. But yeah, I think about it all the time and I'm like, maybe I should get life insurance. But I'm scared.
It's understandable because when we go through kind of the process, what we call the discovery phase, to try and get more familiar with the prospect, the potential client, we do have to ask these type of questions, such as what are your thoughts about life insurance? This is without asking if you have any or not. What are your thoughts about life insurance? Because Amber, if I was sitting down with the two of you and I was to ask that question, and Amber, you told me that experience that you had with your uncle, at that point, I have a better understanding of how to approach this conversation with you, because the reality is if I'm telling you all the benefits and all the different things that life insurance can do for you, but all along you have this concept of what life insurance is to you, and I don't address it, how can you even begin to really accept the real benefit of what life insurance can do for you? Because I can tell you, if you ask any widower out there, the meaning of life, if the life insurance is important to them, and they'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's reality. It's just a matter of it's going to happen. It's just how much do you give a shit about the people that rely on you to protect yourself and to protect them. And there's life insurance out there that also protects you while you're alive in case you get sick, chronically ill, critically injured. You can build cash value, which we talked about on the last podcast, on how some individuals can actually get out of debt by leveraging life insurance cash value.
Dang.
There's a lot of things that it can do. It's a matter of taking the time to understand how it works, what it means, what it does. And then once you have that information, being able to make a better decision for you and your family. That's all it is. It's just getting the information, fact checking it, and then make a decision. And if you don't believe that life insurance is important, it's necessary, then don't get it. It's up to you, right?
Yeah. All right, sign me up.
All right, we'll take care of the app before I leave.
Take care of it. So you asked this question, right? Favorite book,
Yes.
right? You obviously talked about your favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And what are some of the other questions that you close out with on the podcast?
So the very, very first question that I ask, only because of my love for music, is what's your favorite musician or band or artist and why? What I came to realize with the 3 guests that we've done so far, it's very hard to say one.
Yeah.
I think I have to change it to give me the top 3.
The top 3 of music or each individual?
Just music.
Because I feel like that's a load of... Okay, so what's the question again?
Name 3 musical artists, bands
Okay.
that are your favorite.
Gotcha.
And why? It's kind of like if you saw the Johnny Cash movie, Walk the Line.
Yeah.
And when he was in the studio trying to find
Joaquin
out.
Phoenix.
Yeah, when Juan.
Reese Witherspoon.
So when he was in
2004.
Shut up.
Shut the. I'm just kidding. So when he was trying to get.
Do you
his
really want me
record-
to speak more on your podcast? Because this is what it's going to be
no.
like.
God, no.
This is what it's going to be like, sir.
But no, there was a part in the movie when he was in the studio and he was playing his gospel music that everybody's heard. It
They're
wasn't
like,
different.
No.
And what I like is that he was asked the question, if there's one last song
Yeah.
when you are in your deathbed or you're laying down on the side of the street, that one song that says, this is you, this is what your life represents, who that is. And all I'm simply trying to do is tell me who the fuck's your favorite band.
I like that question better. You should let's watch the movie again and rephrase it how you would phrase it for the guest. I think that basically if you were making your own playlist for your funeral, what songs will be on that, or what artists would be on that playlist?
I love it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's part of fucking being an adult is always being open to other people's suggestions, ideas. I know that I don't know it all. I have a lot to learn.
You just sound like you know it all, but you don't.
No, not at all. But that was a great advice, because then that connects it to some things that I've talked before, I think on this podcast and definitely on Emo Brown, that I have a death playlist because of being in this industry and just being 45 years old. I unfortunately I was at several funerals. I unfortunately had to say that I was asked to do the eulogy for some family members. And what I was noticing that sometimes the music that's being played there is just fucking whack. And I'm thinking, there's no way that this person that unfortunately we've lost physically here in this world
Would want that.
That's their music. No, fuck no, it's not.
Right.
So and death playlist is not something that's new, obviously. I knew of the concept but I took the initiative to say, you know what, I'm going to fucking create my own. And I have my playlist. I have my top favorite artists, bands, more specifically my top songs that I want played in what order. And my wife knows where that playlist is at, and it continues to grow. I continue to add songs to it that mean something to me, that means something to my wife and I, that means something to each one of my daughters. Because when they individually hear that song, they're going to know, oh, fuck, that's when Dad and I did when we went to this concert.
I like that.
That's going to be those little memories that they're going to have because that music is connected to that moment. So I think asking that question that way, Gil, you're absolutely fucking right. It's rephrasing it. What's on your death playlist? If you only have one last song that you can hear before you're fucking out, what are you going to pop on Spotify, on what are you going to listen to? What are you going to throw on, right?
When I hear those rich folks eating in a fancy dining car.
Fuck, you're saying the remixes. That's not the lyrics.
Oh, it's not?
When I hear them eating.
Oh, shit.
No.
My bad. I'm hungry again.
He's getting hangry again.
It's all that pasta got to your head.
No.
Oh, no, you had a burger. It's all that meat. It's all that red meat.
It's all that sesame bun.
There you go.
Yeah. It's all the sesames on the buns.
Sesame buns.
But
that's the first question. The
Okay.
second question, I already addressed the book part. But so on the second question, I gave him 3 options to choose one.
But what are your options on the music?
So if I'm connecting it directly to my death playlist, it starts off with Ramon Ayala for me.
Okay.
So it starts off with that type of music because it reminds me a lot about my parents. And every time that I hear the music, it creates this emotion inside because, again, I do associate it with my parents. I associate it with my friends that I hang out with the most. We listen to norteño music and it just fucking hits. I remember seeing Ramon Ayala multiple times at shows and how I felt.
Those are the lyrics. What are you talking about? Pull up the lyrics for Folsom Prison Blues.
We're not even going to get through this until we get this out of the way.
No, those are the lyrics. Pull up the lyrics. No, because I'm sorry for cutting you off.
You did cut him off.
I did, but
Go on.
no, I'm not gonna.
Look up the lyrics.
I'm not gonna go on thinking
Gil
having
doesn't-
people thinking that I got the lyrics wrong when I did it.
You got
Gil
to
doesn't know how
no.
to
You
be
were
wrong.
they were there, but they were all fumbled.
Yeah.
It wasn't in that order.
They weren't wrong. They're just not.
When I
You did the
hear
remix.
when I hear folks eating in a fancy dining car.
Oh, that part's right. But you said two phrases, and they were not in the right order. Well, anyways, while we looked that up, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you just got gilled. That should be a new term that we use. You just got gilled.
You got guild.
So I do have Ramon Ayala. I do have Tigres del Norte because that's more associated with specifically with my dad. I love The Doors, which is classic rock. And I think that music came to me at a pivotal moment in my life. And it helped me better accept myself as an individual and not following trends and not. That's what The Doors did to me. Even though The Doors is a fucking incredible, it's still known as one of the biggest rock bands in the world. And Jim Morrison died many, many, many years ago at the age of 27. But during that era, what they were able to do, 60s and 70s, they've done some incredible things in music by pushing the limit, bringing in a different sound, having a front man that is an incredible poet that just has these very dark lyrics. There was a lot that The Doors did for me, so The Doors is going to be on my list. Now saying that, Gil, let me ask you, what artists, bands are in your death playlist? If you had to pick 3 that this is fucking it, this wraps it up, this is curtain call. What are the last 3 bands that are performing? What songs?
Let's see. Johnny Cash, for sure.
Because you know the lyrics so well.
Because I know the lyrics so well. Kiss, for sure. Kiss is on there.
Hell yeah.
The Doors. Black Sabbath, for one.
Did you know that Ozzy just got Black Sabbath is already in the History Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they just came out with the new musicians that are being elected to be candidates to see who actually gets. These are nominations. The nominations came out, and the ballot gets to pick the top 7. But one of them is Ozzy Osbourne as a solo artist. So Black Sabbath's already on there, and they have an incredible catalog. Right. But so does Ozzy. He has a lot of great music too as a solo artist. It's hard because I think so many times we try and compare it to Black Sabbath,
right?
And the wicked music they came out with. Not to mention that it's obvious that you're a big Black Sabbath fan because you use Iron Man during your intro commercial about the comedy show. But yeah, Hopefully Ozzy gets in as an individual.
Yeah,
He
if
gets
he's
two
not
nods.
if he's not in already, I mean, what is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doing? They're sleeping on Ozzy. Ozzy Osbourne should have been there already, right?
Yeah. Well, he is with Black Sabbath, but not as a solo artist.
Yeah. So Black Sabbath, Johnny Cash, Kiss, Misfits,
Hell yeah.
for sure. That's the rock and roll side. I think it's the artist of Crimson and Clover. I'll name one that song for sure. And then some oldies music. Maybe we have to look this up, but it's what's his name?
Okay, I looked up the lyrics first. You were wrong.
They're probably drinking coffee and
I bet these rich folks eat in a fancy dining car.
I said I hear.
Yes.
Somebody is wrong.
See, I'm glad this happened on live because he gets all crazy when he thinks he's right.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. I have to re-listen to the song again.
But he's number one on your death playlist, huh?
Yeah. When I'm dead,
it doesn't matter. As long
lyrics
as you're not
won't
singing,
matter. As long as
matter.
exactly,
You're already dead.
I'll listen to it again, and my family can recall back to this podcast. Remember on the podcast, he totally got it wrong.
I'm gonna clip when you get it wrong.
Can you plug that when it's that verse and have him saying his
Yeah.
saying those? That'd be so fucking
This was
awesome.
my remix.
Now available on Spotify.
Yeah.
Not under my Grito.
But the Doors, Jimi Hendrix, probably Are You Experience? The songs from those albums. I think that's what I can think of.
Shit, well, you gave me a lot.
Yeah.
And it's hard. That's why it's a hard question, because if you try to narrow it down, at first my ask was for 1, it's too difficult. 3, it's still difficult, but I think it's a little bit more reasonable, because keep in mind, the reason that I want to ask the guests these questions is because musically, I want to know what they're into. And here's one that I learned a lot about. I already answered my question on...
Ooh, the Beatles. There we go.
Oh,
all right.
There you go. I already answered the question. And I'm not saying it's my favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I think it made a significant impact in my life when I read it, because it helped me understand and be more proficient in my career because of those concepts. But the guests that chose a book that meant something to them that they really like, some good books came out that for me as a reader, I wrote it down and I said, okay, now I got to check that out when I get to that point on my list of what's next. So I'm curious about, tell me either your favorite book, your favorite movie and why, or a favorite app on your phone, because I figured, in the era of technology, there's so many cool apps that are out there. There's too much. But I think I always get a kick out of it when I hear it on some podcasts when somebody says, hey, so I have this app on my phone that does this. I can't help it but download it because it sounds interesting. And maybe it can help me out in some way. So I'm very happy that Angie from the McCharmleys, she actually chose an app when I asked her that question. What app she chose? You got to listen to the podcast and find out.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say it too.
I'm glad you didn't ruin it, just like the Johnny Cash song. God.
That's on my list. Come on, that's on my list. I haven't, to be fair, I haven't heard Johnny Cash in a very long time.
Let this be your reminder.
It is a reminder. I've been in my 1999 playlist on Spotify right now.
Nice.
Like 1990s alternative rock at the moment.
Nice.
Oasis has been an oasis for me for the past couple days.
Fuck. You want to cry, don't you?
I do. I don't know what it is. I think it's just, I'm just in this weird, for the past couple of months, dude, I've been in this weird 90s thing. TV shows, wrestling, 1990s wrestling. Just weird. I'm just in that nostalgia, 1990s nostalgia vibe right now.
Why do you think that is?
I think because I'm looking at the mirror and seeing more grays in my hair, and it sucks. And I don't know. Like it's taking me back to like I love music. I fucking love music. But when I was growing up, I was listening to a lot of 70s, 60s and 70s music that I really didn't get to focus on the music that was on the radio until right now, which is super weird. You know what I'm saying? I felt like I was always late to the party listening to music. Perfect example, the Growlers. Have you heard of the Growlers?
Fuck yeah, I have.
So I didn't get into them until 2017 when they stopped touring. I believe 2018, 2019 was one of the last beach goth festivals that they had when they were uber popular in the 2010s to over the past, decade from the 2010s onward. I was late because I was in my Beatlemania phase around 2010 to like 2015, while my friends were, put on Beach Rats or put on this album by the Growlers. I didn't want to listen to it because I was super stuck on my Beatle phase. So I missed out on that.
I mean, you just explained something that a lot of people go through when it comes to music, and it's not a bad thing. Because during that time, if you were really deep into, as an example, the Beatles, it's because it brought a certain feeling to you and you were enjoying it. So why get away from that high?
Right.
But at the same time, we are missing out. And it's not
at
that
the height, dude. It was at the height, and I was able. They were playing smaller shows back then. It was like when they were just turning over to touring the country. They were doing shows in the OC because that's where they bloomed, right? And it kind of sucked because I thought about it. I was like, I missed out on going to shows. I think that's why listening and finding the McCharmleys and getting to know the musicians before, because when you listen to a band or listen to a music that this is going to be good, they are going to be great. That's why at the beginning of the podcast where I was sharing my experience when I first discovered them through a show, like it's this, I guess this is a chance that I'm able to have to actually follow a band or a musician before they bloom into whatever the universe is holding for them in the near future. I think that's why this time is so awesome, because I get to see it in real time rather than, like the McCharmleys were blowing up around this time, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's the time is now, and I'm able to experience that with everybody else.
The ease of getting access to music, it's so easy. It's not like the times of the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, when we're dealing with Napster and shit like that to download music. Or right?
Really, dude?
Yeah, I'm
No,
taking
I
it way
remember
back.
that. I used to do that too.
AM radio.
Yeah, but and at the same time, as consumers, you needed to go out there and either buy the vinyl, buy a CD, buy a tape, in order if you want to listen to the full album. It wasn't as easily available as it is now digitally. I had a conversation, or the interview that we had with Art Meza, again from Chicano Soul, real good conversation, because we talked about, he's very heavily involved in the lowrider scene, and we're talking about music and the association with lowriding, because now we're talking cruising. What music are you cruising to? And if you think about it, back in the day, because that's the music that I was into, I would listening to Brenton Wood, the Barclays, Mary Wells. There's all these incredible artists, Zapp and Roger, Kid Frost, Lighter Shade of Brown. This is the type of artist that I was listening to. And I would think in that era, that type of music, it's so hard to escape it in the lowrider scene. But the reality is there's new soul music out there that it's been out there for a long time. Artists like the ones that are similar to My Grito, right? Our job is we're trying to help out other artists to get their name out there because we know they're really talented and they have beautiful music for people to check out. Maria Sanchez, Adrian Carmine, Florencia Andrada, great artists in the soul scene. We have other bands like 3LH, Rundown Creeps, Bad Hombres, The Paranoias, Professor Galactico, Rare Hearts. We have all these other artists that one of my closest friends, Harless Sweetwater. There's other artists out there locally that are creating beautiful music, and we have the opportunity to not only experience their music and their story, but also support local artists. Yep. And I think that's also something that's very important that many of us, especially if you're listening to podcasts, chances are you're already doing supporting local music, which is great. But it's always good to keep an open mind about experiencing different artists because you might uncover some new shit that you might be thinking, oh shit, I'm going to add this to my death playlist.
True.
But you gotta explore the beautiful art of the world the music world that's out there for us.
Yeah, don't get closed off. And you know what, dude? I was in my early days of listening to music because I got into rock and roll pretty. I've always been a rock and roller, but I felt like I got pushed towards Kiss and classic rock at the ripe age of 12. I think I was like 12 or 13 years old. And the first time I heard a Kiss album or a Kiss song, it was like God was whispering into my ear and giving me a kiss. Like, it was so beautiful. Like, I got chills. And then the first time I heard the Ramones, I Want to Be Sedated, it was Nirvana, dude. Like, it was I don't know, like, I just love music so much. And I think because of that so let me give you a little story of when I was 12 years old, and I probably had, I want to say, the second or first best experience of Halloween. And I didn't really have many friends growing up because I was always moving a lot. So we moved around a lot, and I was with these kids from the neighborhood, and they lived in the front house. I lived in the back house, and I didn't know them. They didn't know me. My cousins were family friends of their grandparents, and the grandparents told them, "Hey, take Gilbert out and go trick or treating with you guys." Right, so that was cool because I was able to hang out with some kids, right? And that night we all got back to there. I was able to hang out in their rooms. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, they have bunk beds. Like, it was fun. It was late at night. Like, we didn't go to sleep early. Like, everybody was all hanging out, all the kids. And they put on Detroit Rock City. And they asked me, you ever watched this movie? And I'm like, no. Like, what is this movie?
Were you already a Kiss fan, or that's what helped you get there?
That's what catapulted my love for rock and roll and classic rock. So they put on that movie, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, and let me tell you, because this was a pivotal moment of me loving rock and roll and classic rock. It was because of this movie and just the whole vibe of the night, because I was, I listened to hip hop, and but I've always had a love for like ska music and rock and roll. It didn't really it didn't really click in my head to what this really was. So after watching that movie, and when Love Gun turned on in that movie, and they started showing all the Kiss memorabilia and doing all that stuff in the movie, it was just, you know, in the movies where people's eyes, their pupils dilate and they go into shock and they have this like psychedelic experience. That's exactly what was going on in my mind, dude. When Love Gun turned on and that whole montage of Kiss came on in the early 70s, dude. That's how it felt, bro. Like, it was just amazing. And to this day, they're one of my favorite bands. It's crazy to have love for that type of music for such a long time. It's awesome. I'm gonna be a Kiss fan until I'm 60 years old.
Kiss Army.
That's right, dude.
Only until you're 60?
70. 80.
It's like around the corner. Just
so I'm 100 forever until then. You know?
Awesome story. Because I can envision it, you as a 12-year-old watching this movie for the first time and just wow. Mm-hmm. Because the movie was so well done and just the way it was produced, great movie. More importantly, the way they've made Kiss be musical gods.
Right.
Have you ever seen them in a live live show?
I haven't. No.
Wow.
I have to.
What's wrong? What is wrong?
Because I'm still stuck in my Beatles phase, dude. That's what's wrong, bro. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I hate to jump on the fan wagon late to stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's that fear of missing out that I don't want to be a part of anymore. But I think it's just liking older music. It's just, it sucks. And whenever you have the opportunity to go see some good music, just go do it. If you have the chance to.
Yeah.
Right? Like if somebody said, Kiss is playing here and here, let's fucking go do it. Like Amber and I went to Tijuana last year in April. Of course, under the circumstances, they weren't the greatest, but we were still able to go see a band that I never thought I would ever see. Like, there's a list of bands that you would like to see that you're like, it's never going to happen. Demented Argot was on that list. I'm never going to see them because the frontman can't play in the United States because of his visa being, rejected by the U.S. government, right? So he only plays in overseas or in Mexico. But last year we were able to go see them, and it was fucking amazing. Like I never thought that I'd be able to get to see them, and I've already made up in my mind I'm never gonna see them, but I was able to see them last year, and the concert was awesome. The show was badass. I was able to shake Sparky's hand. I mean, it's crazy. People got to hang out with them. It was awesome.
That's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, dude.
It's connected to music, and I mean, you took the initiative to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to go down there. I'm going to check out this band," and you did, and that's something that you're going to remember for the rest of your life.
Seeing the Cyclops in Japan. What? Like, did you ever think you were going to see a psychobilly band in Japan? Yeah. A Japanese psychobilly band? Did you ever think that in a million years that you would be able to do that?
Mm-hmm. Oh. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, I get it. I totally get. I get what you're saying, and I get what you're saying. Like your fear of not. No. I'm saying your fear of not wanting to miss out. But I think you are who you are, and the type of music you like whether it was made 30 years back or 40 years back, it's what you enjoy, and I like that about you, that you're not jumping on the bandwagons of just anybody. It's like you appreciate music for what it is and for what you like. But
what I'm saying is that the whole the growlers thing, that was kind of messed up. That was bad on my part, dude.
Because you didn't give it a chance?
Because I didn't give it a chance. Yeah. I felt like if I would have gave it a chance back in 2013, I would have had more opportunities to see them the original band live, or the Strokes live, or Weezer live, or Weezer on SNL when they were on every late night TV show closing out a late night talk show. That's what I'm talking about.
I hope what you see from, obviously, you passionately sharing this with all of us, that your takeaway is, when it comes to music and opportunities for experiences, to just do it.
Oh, yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah. And to be open to new experiences. Be open to independent music. Be open to local music, because you never know.
Right.
You never know. I hear these stories of my buddy that I used to work with, I'm going to say like over 15 years ago. And he'd tell me about, he used to go to backyard shows when
No doubt.
No Doubt was playing. Like he would be
remember
in Garden Grove going to backyard shows where Gwen Stefani was playing. And we watched a TikTok earlier. Did you know that there's an original singer besides Gwen Stefani? Did you know that, Dan?
I didn't know that.
Can you pull it up? Because this is one thing I wanted to share on the podcast, especially with you, because we're talking music right now. But it was a male singer, and Gwen Stefani was the backup singer.
I should have been aware of that. I mean, just for them being a local band that really blew up.
Mm-hmm.
My boyfriend
I
was
didn't know that.
one win away
Sorry.
from hitting on real. Excuse me.
Jesus.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, I don't want you to worry about that, Amber, that you just ruined the whole episode. It's not your fault.
Not my fault.
So it was that band, and then what was the other band that you probably know this? They have an album called Americana. They sing a song that goes, "I'm pretty fly for a white guy."
Offspring.
Yes, he was talking about.
A Fullerton band, right?
He was
From Fullerton.
about seeing Fullerton. I mean, Offspring in backyard shows back in the OC.
Yeah.
Those local LA bands that were just local bands, but over time they became icons in the music industry. You know what I mean? Like imagine you were back in the early 90s or the early, late 80s, and they're like, "Hey, let's go check out the Offspring." And you're just like, nah, like I don't want to go see them. And then fast forward 10 years and they're fucking one of the pioneers of rock and roll during that time. Imagine how fucked up that would be.
It's happened to me. It's happened to a lot of people. You just don't know what you don't know. And yet again, another reason why, if you are somebody that appreciates music, it's not only about going out there to check out your favorite bands at these huge venues for this outrageous amount of money to get a ticket. And quite honestly, it's probably well deserved because the artist created an incredible following, but also understand that you can go to these local venues to support local artists that are blowing up. There are many artists here that are at some point going to get to that level, and it only costs $5, $10, $15 to check out that show and see, to your point, the next Offspring. They're here. They're out there. I would love to think, and I feel very good about the bands that are in my Grito, that they have the potential to be those bands.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying that, and I'm saying this openly, I'm not saying that it's my Grito that's going to help them get there. I hope that we're the next step in their musical career to take them to the next level.
Yeah.
Because it's genuinely our passion. What we want to do is we want to help them get there. But we feel very confident about these bands that are on this label, these other bands that we've met along the way. They have this incredible musical talent. I know if they're a Grito band, that we also trying to give them support, ideas, direction, structure on some of the things that they should be doing to be further ahead, things that maybe bigger labels are going to be looking for. It's up to them if they want to take us up on our advice or not. But there's certain things that you can do. And a lot of those things really come from Rob, who's been in radio all of his adult life. He knows these things, right? But yeah, hopefully for your listeners, they are continuing to go out there and safely check out these bands and support these local artists and tell their friends about it. Yeah. Because, I mean, that's how we're all going to grow.
Right. You know what's free? Sharing a page. Talking to somebody about a band you just heard or talking about My Grito. That's free. Sharing the new music video that the Paranoias are going to come out with when it comes out. Sharing the link. That's free. Like, there's all these different ways on how to support local music, especially with My Grito.
Yeah, and there's several individuals out there that do a real good job on their social media page in doing that. Could more people be doing it? Of course. But there's other things that we should also be focusing on in regards to politics, things that are happening out there, our communities. There's a lot to be done. And I know we're just looking at it from one angle because that's kind of the world that we're trying to promote with music.
Right.
Which I appreciate it. I mean, if we get more love with My Grito, specifically with not the label, not the podcast that's going to be coming out here next Friday, I would love to have a lot of you take a listen to the episode. Give it a follow. I would love for people to be putting the word out there because that's just one small source of entertainment that not only hopefully they can get to know the person that we're interviewing a little bit better because of this intimate personal stories they're sharing with us on the episode, but also they'll be able to hear some financial advice from me. I'm hoping that there's people out there that are willing to share it. More importantly, because of what My Grito, or even the reason for the podcast, was to help out the label. When I say the label, the artists that are part of the label, to listen to the bands that are out there, to check out the other podcast shows that are part of the label. That's what we want. We want just good growth, and we're always open to feedback. So anytime that somebody can do that for us, hey, we, with a lot of respect, we appreciate it.
And before I let you go, check this out. Look at this. Put it on the screen.
I couldn't find TikTok doesn't let me.
Oh, no.
Get in there.
I guess we got to hook up our TikTok on here. But
Yeah.
John Spence, lead singer of No Doubt, it was one of their, right? If I remember the TikTok, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was one of their first shows where they were getting noticed in the scene. And I guess there was a big producer, right, in watching their first show, and he didn't make it. Like, he was late because he ended up unaliving himself in his car, right?
I can't remember, but it was something like that. Yeah, like it was like one of like a show, like just like a breakthrough show.
Yeah.
And they were waiting for him, and he didn't get there, and he didn't get there, and he didn't get there. And then they were like, "All right, Gwen, you have to like." They were gonna cancel.
Yeah.
And then her brother was like, "You have to do it," like, and she was like, "No, I can't do it," and she ended up doing it, and that was it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dang, it's crazy. I didn't know that at all. And they say like he's the one that gave them like that style,
That rock steady style.
Rock steady, yeah. Like he did a lot for the band and for music at that time too.
Isn't that crazy?
It happens.
Right.
You got to be ready. If anything, the last thing that I want to share, I mentioned there's 3 questions. I didn't get a chance to get to the third one. And I know I've been talking a lot about this, but I think this last question is probably one of the more important ones. So during the podcast, my intention is to ask every guest what I share with a lot of my clients when we're talking about the essence of leaving behind a legacy. Leaving behind a legacy is not always necessarily just financial. There's a lot more to it, with values that the family has, stories. There's a lot to be shared in that arena, and I'm trying to bring that to their attention. And most of the time, what I do is I ask these next 3 questions that I'm going to share with you. because I think it really connects with the couple or the individual that I'm speaking with. But unfortunately, I also asked these 3 questions, or I mentioned this during a eulogy that I did for my father-in-law a couple years ago. What I said is, when we find ourselves at some point, when we realize that our mortality, that we're not going to be here forever. And there's been individuals that have had near-death experiences, and there's individuals that unfortunately did not make it. I personally have a sister that passed away from cancer, and we've had several conversations that were very intimate and very dark at times before she passed. And during those conversations, we ask about the meaning of life and what did my life mean? So the questions that I said during the eulogy, as we see my father-in-law here in spirit, we have to ask ourselves, 1, did we love? So you take a look at how you lived your life in this world, and is there clear evidence that you love somebody? And then during the eulogy, I would give examples of, here's how this man showed love to people. The second question I would ask, was he loved? And obviously, from all the people that were present that day, is showing that he was loved. But I also gave other hard examples of sacrifices that other people have done to care for this man, especially my wife, who really handled a lot of stuff during his last moments. The third question is, and this is the one that I asked the people during the podcast interview, when all is said and done, and you are no longer here physically, how do you hope people would remember you? So you are no longer here, and somebody brings up, hey, remember Gil from the Mind Buzz? What do you think about that guy? What kind of impact did he leave behind?
I hope by the end of his life that he got the lyrics to Folsom Prison Blues right.
I hope so. That would be nice. That's a start. But yeah, it's a really a little bit of a darker question, but I think for a lot of the clients, and during the eulogy, I mean, I got a lot of comments from family members that they like kind of the approach that I took, but also with clients, it gives them a perspective of, what have I accomplished in my life? Mm-hmm. What did I say that I wanted to do at some point, but I never got to it? What's stopping you from doing it? There's a lot of things that are out there that we can still execute, and it's not going to be easy. It's never easy.
Right.
But figure out a way on how you can take care of some of these things. And I know for me personally, when all is said and done and I'm no longer physically here, I would like to think that people would remember me, my parents, if I go before them, as a good son that stepped up, and I wasn't perfect throughout my whole life with them. But when it counted, that I stepped up and I was there for them. I want to think that my wife would remember me as a husband that did everything in his power to not only provide and protect his family, but for her personally, a man that showed at every moment how much he was devoted and loved his wife. That she knows that I love her, and there's no question about it. I want my kids to remember me as somebody that not just was a dad that would come in, and I'm not that dad that would come in all grumpy from work, just pissed off and not wanting to talk to him and watching TV. That's not the dad that I am. I'm a heavily involved father. And I want them to think all these great memories that they've had with me and I've had with them. I want them to remember those moments. I want them to remember the lessons that I shared, the values that I shared with them. I'm hoping that I could be that type of dad for them. For people in general, and this applies also to my Grito, and this one's a hard one because you never know how easy it is to make this work. I want to feel that based on the actions that I've done in this world, that because of those actions, it helped other people not give up on themselves and believe in themselves, for them to accomplish their goals. That's how I hope people will remember me, to say, you know what, because of that guy, I was able to go a step further. I was able to do these following things. I was able to to live a better life of purpose. I hope that's how people remember me, but we'll see. I'm working in that direction. I'm going to stay on that path and see where it goes, where it takes me. And now people have an opportunity on the podcast, the Grito podcast, to hear more about the concepts, the ideas, the values that I have, and they could hear for themselves.
I like that.
Oscar, thanks for coming out and doing the podcast, brother. Once again. So go ahead and tell us where we can find you and what you got coming up.
Absolutely. So as a reminder, I'm one of the co-owners of Grito Industries. So you can go on at Grito on Instagram, as well as Facebook. Facebook, if you're over the age of 40, feel free to go on there, because I know that's pretty much the only people that it attracts. We are on TikTok, but I'm really shitty on TikTok. So for anybody out there that is very good with TikTok, hit us up. We are looking to bring on more staff onto the company to help us grow our brand. So that's with Grito. I also have, like I said, my insurance business. Feel free to also reach out to me on my personal page, which is the letter N, the underscore, the Oscar goes to. Or you can simply Google me, Oscar Toledo, on Google, and you'll be able to easily find my information on there, my contact information. You can hit me up and understand that no obligations. If you're just looking for some information, I'll be happy to provide that. Next Friday, or this Friday, February the 16th, with the work of the Mind Buzz Media, Grito Industries presents the Grito podcast. So make sure that you're following us on Grito. Make sure that you're following us on Mind Buzz Media.
Mind butt.
Mind Buzz Media on Instagram. That's also another account that Gil and Amber have for the show. And you'll be able to see more announcements there about when your next episode of the Grito podcast is available. Again, this Friday, Super Steve Flores will be our first guest.
Steve Flores. Woo! Cool. And do we have anything coming up, Amber?
Your show on the 23rd?
Yes. If you are in Southeast Los Angeles, or just person that loves free stuff and free comedy, come out to Paramount at Horchateria in the Gallery, February 23rd, Friday, February 23rd. Come out, open mic, let's go.
The Mind Buzz.